Hi, I'm Walter Smalling. I'm the photographer for At First Light, 2 Centuries of Maine Artists, their homes and studios. One of my favorite paintings always has been 8 Bells by N.C. Wyeth. I've always liked the painting because it has such an incredibly open and bright and wonderful sort of look to it that it's a sort of a perfect world that is so keenly caught in that painting. N.C. Wyeth came to Port Clyde in 1907 when he was 25 years old, and he was looking for a place that he might bring his family, and he found the house, which at that time was rather dilapidated, and he very shortly afterwards bought it and began renovations on it, so with the dream of creating a perfect world, a world where his family would be happy, they would be in New England, they would be in the sun, they would be on the shore with the ocean there, and they would have create a perfect summer world for them. And also they could drive there or get there fairly easily in approximately one day from Chadds Ford, which is where they were living at the time, Chadds Ford, Pennsylvania. N.C. Wyeth wrote at one point, "One of my great and blessed relaxations is to concentrate upon any chance detail with remote Port Clyde and sublime sea that bathes its shores, even the imagined sight of a small ordinary wave, glass clear and jewel green, gliding over the smooth surface of a gently shelving shore." And he had an incredible ability to get that main light exactly right, and the beauty of it and the clarity of it. And it was no coincidence. N.C. had a great urge to have his children grow up at least part of the time in New England, where he had been from, and he wanted them to have an attachment to New England. But what was really interesting about Port Clyde and the Maine shore was that it was the domain of artists. It was a place that artists were known to go and work, and so he wanted to be in that crowd. And one of the poetic licenses, if we'll call it that, in being an artist, I think, is that you can create a perfect world. And that's not always, obviously, the meaning or the desire in making art. But I think for N.C. Wyeth, in many ways, it was, because I think much about his life was, to him, and in many ways, tragic. He suffered from depression. He always had a feeling that as an illustrator, and as an illustrator who became wildly successful and famous in America for doing the illustrations for many children's books that became literally the icons of childhood, he always felt that he was less than in some ways, that he was not a painter as much as he was an illustrator, and that he wanted to be more of a painter. He put a lot of energy into his son's career, because he was clearly felt that he was the better artist. The house was named after a painting by Winslow Homer, 8 Bells. And I think part of the irony of that is that both Winslow Homer and N.C. Wyeth were known for being illustrators. Winslow Homer, obviously, an illustrator who did the news photographs, if you want to call it that, for the Civil War, and N.C. Wyeth, who did basically, and with Winslow Homer, therefore, nonfiction, and for N.C. Wyeth, it was fiction, doing the drawings for Treasure Island and many other children's books. And so I think that N.C. Wyeth always had a certain envy of Winslow Homer. N.C. Wyeth's paintings, to me, have always been extraordinary because they are so full of energy and light, unlike the work of very many other artists, where when you look at them, you feel almost like you have entered into a perfect world and also into a world of energy and of anything being possible. When N.C. Wyeth tragically died in an accident, the house became the summer house of Andrew Wyeth and his family. And to this day, there is a handwritten legend on the door of the studio, which is probably 100 feet from the house, right on the shore, in a beautiful little building all by itself. He wrote, "Unless you are the second coming of Christ, do not bother me." That was written on the door, and very clear that he was not to be disturbed.